after nearly 13 years since he was first mentioned. With One Piece chapter 1114, we finally have the reveal of Joyboy to the entire world. The cover page for this chapter, titled The Wings of Icarus, is a continuation of our Yamato cover story. Gienmon wanted Yamato to travel to Hakumai and return Yasuo's sword to Enma's shrine. This should be a fun adventure, and based on the map, it should go on for a good while. 6 more covers at least. The Marines of Navy headquarters were all reacting to Dr. Vegapunk's major revelation: the world as they know it would sink into the ocean. They wondered if he had any idea what he was telling everyone. Now, one of these character designs is really funny. This big guy to Rear Admiral Hina's right looks like a burger man. But not just any burger man, I think he might be based on Officer Big Mac. Officer Big Mac was a McDonald's character that was used in a lot of Japanese commercials in the 70s and 80s, which is exactly when Oda was a kid. Now, as for why I know all this, clearly I've been on the internet for too long. Fleet Admiral Akainu remained silent as he grimly smoked his cigar. Over in Mocktown, true to its namesake, laughter erupted in mockery of the world's smartest fool. And many ruffians wondered if Dr. Vegapunk was just trying to go out with a bang. The idea of the entire world sinking into the ocean was ridiculous to them. Even though Stella so thoroughly prefaced his address, they still made fun of him. The concept was more approachable to the people of Water 7, but even then, it was hard to imagine that sort of thing happening to anywhere that wasn't the City of Water. Paulie had a concerned expression with Lulu behind him. But then, Oda decided to bless us with a trip to Impel Down and the return of Joker. Our boy Doflamingo laughed maniacally. He was having a blast and reminded Magellan that although he's no longer the chief warden, it's still his job to take care of inmates. Dofi wondered what the Poison Man would do if the whole place gets flooded. The vice warden had to admit that the inmate raised a valid point. The recent rise to the sea level caused a bit of trouble for some of their cells. 1 meter was troublesome enough. Magellan had no idea how much it would take to flood the entire world. Meanwhile, the Heavenly Yaksha knew that most urban areas would be doomed by a 5-meter rise. Laughing again, he wondered if they should evacuate. After all, they could always go somewhere high up instead. So are we finally seeing the path forward for the fallen Celestial? And now that I think about it, considering he used to attach himself to clouds, it wouldn't even be surprising if he knew about Sky Island. Down below in the Ryukyu Kingdom of Fishman Island, Princess Shirahoshi called out to her father. She asked for her dad's opinion. Even for him, it was a bit too hard to believe. And although we already had a prison scene with Dofi, I would love to see Old Man Hody Jones react to the news. Fishmen rise up! Back on Egghead Island, the many Marines that currently surround it were in disbelief. But considering this announcement was coming from the world's foremost scientist, it was difficult to outright deny the claims. But true or not, this revelation was bound to cause panic and chaos on a grand scale. Vice Admiral Hound dismissed the doctor's words as lies and madness. The 5 elders, however, were very disturbed by Stella's confession. Now in a state of desperation, they went from aiming to destroy the broadcast snail to outright planning the extermination of every living thing Mars could sense. Consequences be damned. And it looks like God Usopp might have landed a solid hit on Saturn's face. Vegapunk York was huffing and puffing her way around the Labostratum. She was just as frustrated by her creator's broadcast. The recorded Vegapunk requested that the people indulge him as he makes a prediction. According to his sensory data, a few days after the point of his recording, a tremendous earthquake would disturb the entire planet. This shocked the citizens of Alabasta. On Whole Cake Island, Smoothie was shocked by the fact that the doctor was referring to the earthquake they felt just today, especially since the doctor is believed to have died after making this recording. Vegapunk added that in the wake of this catastrophe, sea levels would rise by 1 meter for the entire world, and because of this, many islands and beaches would be lost, which definitely shocked the people who were in the midst of dealing with the calamity. Gunjit listened as Vegapunk told the world to disregard his words if such things didn't end up happening. On Hachinosu, the doctor's words felt rather ominous. Aokiji listened grimly. In the event that his predictions come to fruition, which they have, Stella wanted everyone to listen closely to what else he had to say. While the Straw Hats struggled against the Gorosei, Vegapunk let the world know that the earthquake he predicted wasn't necessarily a natural occurrence. Everyone did their best to resist Saint Saturn's attacks. Even Lilith joined in with a cool pose. But Chopper has definitely seen better days. Saturn was infuriated by Dr. Vegapunk's words and insisted that the broadcast be stopped before he could continue. Stella admitted to naively desiring peace and prosperity in the world. Robin caught her friends with a net made of her hands. Saturn then used Chopper as a launch pad. Then he disregarded the pests in front of him in pursuit of something else. Vegapunk claimed that this desire led him to his first great sin. Saturn asked Mars what was going on with the power station, and the Elder claimed to be in the process of handling it. The spider monster was on his way and insisted on preserving the room's contents. While Saturn broke through a wall like the Kool-Aid Man, Stella spoke about his desire to create an everlasting source of energy, something he did for the sake of pushing the world towards a bigger and better future. After all, if energy wasn't an issue, he could extend things like climate control and food generation to places other than Egghead Island. Saint Saturn was forced to shield himself from the light source in front of him. And with that, we finally get to see the Mother Flame. In pursuit of it, Vegapunk claimed that he flew too close to the sun, just like Icarus. Saint Saturn reverted to his humanoid form and began breaking things with his staff. The Elders decided to relentlessly slaughter all life on the island. Meanwhile, the Mother Flame surged. Elsewhere, the Marines were still struggling against the titanic robot that was now roaming around the island. Nothing they tried had any effect. They couldn't so much as phase the construct. Luffy managed to return to his Gear 5 form. Dory and Brogy weren't fans of the flames consuming the area on account of Saint Topman. Vegapunk claimed that in order to know where the world is headed, they needed to first take stock of the past. More specifically, what happened between 900 and 800 years ago. A stretch of time that most people accept as blank. And Imu was following this broadcast too. At the same time, the Celestial Dragons were infuriated by the failure of the Marines to shut down the broadcast. Vegapunk referred to this time period as the Void Century. And although all related information has either been purged or lost, there was still one thing that allowed the people of today to unlock the secrets of the past. The demented Celestials wanted to punish the Doctor personally. Saint Sharia was confused by the mention of the Void Century, and wondered what the scientist was even talking about. So, are the world nobles unfamiliar with the very concept of the Void Century too? As a giant sat alone in a forest, Dr. Vegapunk mentioned the poneglyphs. The stones found in quiet locations around the world hold inscriptions that may be decoded as a means of glimpsing into the unknown past. Saul reclined and laughed as he listened. After all, the man marked by flames is supposed to have a pretty important one of those stones. In Orangetown, a child mentioned to Boodle that a long time ago, 20 kings came together to create the world. She wondered if Dr. Vegapunk knew anything about it. Boodle wasn't sure, but wondered if Shushu might have an opinion. The Kujo were listening too. Dr. Vegapunk reminded the audience that attempting to decipher the poneglyphs is considered to be a major taboo by the world government. Therefore, he was compelled to commit his second major sin, as he betrayed the powers that be and studied the Forbidden Era. Brook called out to Zoro and Jinbei, while the others caught their breath. Stella spoke of how he had inherited many documents from the archaeologists of Ohara, although he didn't mention them specifically. But thanks to this contribution, he was able to decipher many of the poneglyphs. Vegapunk took this research as far as he possibly could, and had absolutely no regrets, since history can be seen as just a story. Just then, the Straw Hats noticed that the ground was moving. Nami pointed something out. The clouds were stretching. Brook told Usopp that this might be what Edison was referring to. Usopp agreed. With the edge of the clouds now being in this new position, they would be able to jump right into the ocean with their ship. This was thanks to Edison, but he was in rough shape. Even still, he really hoped that the Straw Hats would be able to make it and avoid being captured by the world government. So maybe, just maybe, the broadcast snail is on the Thousand Sunny. Vegapunk continued to let the people know that in reality, he only knows a small portion of the century-long story. And rather than subject them all to his own unbacked speculation, he would stick to only definitive facts. Which is to say, that whatever comes next is not up for debate. Brogy was frantic as he told Luffy to give it a rest. Vegapunk then mentioned the star of this ancient story. Yet again, Luffy insisted on punching the massive boar monster. He was pretty confident that his next move would work. Dr. Vegapunk spoke of a man born in a beautiful and advanced kingdom 900 years ago. That just like Nika, the sun god of legend from the stories of Elbath, this man also fought with a stretchy and elastic body. And they called this man Joyboy. Once more, Luffy's fist was subjected to searing pain. His giant friends couldn't help but laugh despite the precariousness of the situation, which is definitely on brand for what the power represents. And hopefully Luffy's adapting to the Elder's defenses thanks to these experiences. Looking up longingly, Dr. Vegapunk professed that Joyboy was the very first man to take to the seas. In other words, he was the first person to be called a pirate. Oh my goodness. As a lore whore myself, this chapter was incredible. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and I really wish we weren't on break next week because I desperately want to know what Vegapunk will say after this. Again, he is only giving us the facts here, no fluff, no speculation. We've learned quite a bit about Nika in the last 100 or so chapters, but now it is time to learn more about the other great inheritor of his power, Joyboy. Now is the perfect time to drop all of your speculation in the comments. Let's see how close to the truth they prove to be. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.